Start that and get us started. So welcome everybody. This is our 2021 candidate information session. I'm Dylan Gibson. I'm the city clerk of Commerce City. My office handles the elections, obviously. We manage and post your city council agendas. We manage the boards and commissions program. We handle the records retention and records request program. We process business licenses, we issue passports, and we take care of contract processing and general customer service and information at the information desk at the Civic Center. With us tonight, we have Jordan Roberts, who's my deputy city clerk. We have Roger Tinklenberg, who is our city manager. Jason Rogers, who is our Deputy City Manager of External Services, and Kathy Blakeman, who's my boss and the Deputy City Manager of Internal Services. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to open up the presentation here and turn it over to Mr. Roger Tinklenberg, our City Manager.
Dylan, evidently my video is disabled.
Oh, let me fix that here. I'm sorry. All right. How about now, sir?
Looks like that worked. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let's move on to the agenda. So welcome. Glad that you're running for office, and it's a responsibility that comes with many hours of reading and participation in meetings. So it's a significant commitment that you're making, and we want to be able to provide information that is useful to you as a candidate. And so, as Dylan said, put your hand up, ask for ask questions so we can provide information that will give you what you need. We attempt to provide the very same information to all candidates. So don't feel shy. Don't feel like you're imposing on us. We definitely want to give you the information that you need. So tonight we're going to basically give you a quick overview of the city government as it's constituted. And then Dylan will talk to you about the type of things that you need to do to become a candidate or to be a candidate. And then of course, we'll end with questions and answers. So let's move on. So I'll give you the overview. The area in green shows the city limits at this point. There's additional area that's called growth boundary. And what that means is that's area where the city will eventually expand into. We have an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Brighton, for an example, that defines the northern boundary and defines their southern boundary. And so that's what basically shows the area that we can grow into. So our future growth area is up to DIA on the west side, or as it's now called, DEN. But the airport took a chunk out of Adams County. And so by various IGAs, intergovernmental agreements, their area is defined. And to the north, the city of Commerce City can expand on the north side of the airport as well. Our western boundary of the growth area is the South Platte River. And so we arc around the Rocky Mountain National Wildlife Refuge. Moving on. As you can see with that growth boundary, the city has significant area into which it can continue growing, and that presents challenges obviously too. As the population grows, there's increased demand for service, and revenues are the challenge. Then at that point, we want to make sure that we're able to continue providing services to the community and that places more pressure on our budget each year. And so this is sort of a potential worst case scenario where, you know, if the revenue does not keep up with the population, then we will see a shortfall because the demand for service grows as the population grows. Next slide. So Commerce City was incorporated in 1952. So we're coming up on our 70th anniversary as a community, as a organized city. And in 1952, it was called Commerce Town. And then in 1970, the current charter was adopted, and that created the city as City of Commerce City, and also created it as a council manager form of government. Currently, we're nearly 36 square miles in size. And by the time we reach total build out, it'll be 61 square miles. So it's a large geographic area. We're also one of the fastest growing Colorado cities. Our current population is approximately 65,000. And of that, 46% is Hispanic, and half are monolingual. Median household income is just over 67,000, just under 68 actually. And there are more than 1,400 businesses within the city. Next slide. So this gives you a snapshot of what's been happening with development and what the trends are. Historic projected population growth has been at 3.3%, and we anticipate that it will continue to grow at that rate. Other Front Range communities have been growing at an average of 2%, some less, some more, but the average is 2%. As mentioned before, current population is over 64,000, approaching 65. And the projected population by the end of this year is going to be 68,000. And that's trending at a rate that's above what we projected at the beginning of the year. The approved residential permits are units that were permitted in 2020, that was 958. This year, through the end of July, we're already at 1,138. So you can see the growth not only did not drop off in 2020, it increased over 2019, but it has increased again this year. And basically we're looking at doubling by the end of the year, that rate of growth. So anticipating 2,000 plus or minus housing starts and closings for 2022. And that 2,000 represents only reunion related developments. There's other developments that are in process or just starting right now, and that's Legato, which used to be called Prime Sites over east of Tower Road, Second Creek Farm, also east of Tower Road, and then west of Tower Road. Settlers Crossing is east of Tower Road. And those will be coming on in various stages throughout the remainder of this year and next. In terms of active entitlement applications, those are land use cases where developers are proposing a development. We have 193 cases that are active at this point. And that number of land use cases you typically see in a city that's in the 250 to 300,000 population size. So that gives you an indication of just simply the incredible rate of growth that's happening. We've also had quite a significant increase in the amount of industrial warehouse type of development. We're seeing 6 million square feet that's under development in various stages at this point. Next slide. City Council goals. There's 9 council members. 8 of them are labeled as City Council members. And of course, the mayor is one of the 9. The mayor is elected at large, and then he appoints, or she appoints a mayor pro tem. currently we have a male member of member of council who's the mayor. There are 5 specific goals that the city council set out for 2022. So if you are elected and take office, then these will be the goals that we will be working with. So promoting a balanced, thriving, and inclusive city economy, protecting residential health, safety, and education, sustain an efficient and effective city government, develop and maintain public infrastructure and facilities and transportation, etc. Promote inclusion and equity to create a unified city that reflects its diverse residents. Next slide. The structure, as I mentioned earlier, is a home rule city with council manager form of government. Home rule city means that state statutes do not often apply to a home rule city. There are certain exceptions to that, but generally the city council can pass an ordinance that sets our own regulations or structure or anything of that nature that are not subject to the state statutes. So the Colorado revised statutes would not apply in most cases. Like I mentioned, there are some exceptions. The city council is basically setting the general policy. They adopt laws, they adopt the budget, that type of thing. They also serve as a quasi-judicial land use review body. What that means is quasi-judicial means that only the information that the council may consider has to be presented to them in a public hearing. And those public hearings are posted, published, and anyone may attend and anyone may testify at a public hearing. The city council oversees 3 employees. I'm one of them, city manager, and then also the city attorney and the municipal judge. And it's only those 3 employees that they hire and fire and give performance evaluations to. In my case, I function as the chief executive officer and I implement the council's policies and priorities, and then they evaluate my performance on that. And so what we do is we establish an annual work plan to align our work with the council's goals. And I oversee the entire administrative part of the organization, which are all of the full-time employees, except the city attorney's office and the municipal judge. And so you'll see a organization chart here in a minute that lays out how that looks and how the various departments report to me. Next slide. The city publishes the annual work plan, and that informs the public on activities and priorities established by the city council. That work plan is on the city website and is available for you to review. The work plan includes council goals and then the objective strategies and key performance indicators that show how we, the staff, are going to implement the council's goals to achieve those goals. Next slide. This is a sample of the report that comes out on the work plan. We provide this report quarterly, and so it gives an overall pardon me, summary of status. And at this point, you can see we're at 93% of our entire work plan is on track. There's some disruption, a little bit of major disruption, and then it shows what has been completed. Next slide. The city budget, as I mentioned before, is adopted by the city council. Our Department of Finance is responsible for putting that together, but every department has input into the budget. They provide us the requests, and then we take all of that information and put together a recommended budget. And so it's brought to council as the city manager's recommended budget, but the city council can adjust it, can change it. They give us the direction and ultimately adopt the budget. And it's available online as well. And if you go to c3gov.com/budget, you will find it. Department of Finance also provides a popular annual financial report, and that summarizes the completed years. And the 2019 version is available online right now. And fairly soon, the 2020 version will be provided as well. We just finished up the audit, and that was presented to council back in June. Next slide. This is a graph showing how the budget is split out. The budget is, in general terms, about $109 million. Of that, the general fund is approximately $97 million. And when we say general fund is what basically provides all of the services that the city provides to the citizens. And you'll see that on the right-hand side there shows the revenue summary for 2021. General fund is 86 million. Sorry, gave you the wrong number. And then we have some non-governmental funds, impact fee funds, debt service, and that type of thing. And then capital projects is the CIPP funds. Capital projects would be major projects like street construction and building buildings, although at this point we're not building any buildings. And you can see on the left side where the revenue comes from. 85% is from taxes, and then there's some miscellaneous. There are investment earnings, fines, charges for service, intergovernmental assistance, and then licensing and permits. So again, taxes make up the bulk of our revenue. And within taxes, there's a further breakdown. Sales and use tax is by large, the largest portion of taxes. Property taxes are only in the $3 million range approximately, which is just enough to pay for the trash service pickup that the city provides. Next slide. This is a breakdown of the capital projects. We do a 5-year plan, and so that projects out what projects will be funded over multiple years, and then what projects will be started in later years. And we break it out by Parks and Recreation and Golf Preservation, street reconstruction, pavement management, traffic signal maintenance, bridge maintenance, and there's a small amount for city parking lot maintenance. And then long line, I guess they call it long lane striping. So that's restriping of streets. Next slide. And so those were the preservation projects I reviewed for you. These are the operational projects. So in this category, we have concrete flat work and sidewalk connectivity, that type of thing. We're putting effort into ADA compliance. There's some money for Derby. Fairfax Park drainage outlet has to be reconstructed. Buffalo Run Golf Course irrigation system has to be replaced. The Buffalo Run area drainage study, so again, quite a wide variety of type of projects, and you can see all of them broken out there. Next slide. These are what we call the traditional projects. So when you think of a big construction project, that's what we would put into the traditional category. So for an example, we show 96th Avenue widening, and that's a future project that would start in 2024. And some of the major funding would start in 2025. So the 2024 money is simply design, and it may be some early right-of-way acquisition, that type of thing. Whereas 88th Avenue has been ongoing for several years. And so the design is pretty well complete, and they're doing some right-of-way acquisition. And you see that we have $4 million in 2021, and then another $1.5 million in 2022 and $1.3 million in 2023. 104th Avenue, that's some match money for a Dr. Cog grant that was granted to the city of Thornton, but we're participating in an agreement with city of Thornton that we would participate in the study. And so that's what that $100,000 is for. So you can see all these different projects. I won't bore you with all of the details of those, but if you have questions on any of them, be happy to provide that. Another one that you may make note of is Rosemary Street widening. That's another major project that we've been funding for a couple of years now, and hopefully by 2024 we will have funded its completion. Next slide. This is the organization chart that I mentioned earlier. You can see that obviously the citizens elect the mayor and city council. The mayor and city council appoints the city attorney and the municipal judge and me. And then they also appoint the members of the boards and commissions. So that would be one of your responsibilities as well, if elected, to interview candidates for those boards and commissions and make the appointments. So for the administrative part of the organization, then I have an executive administrator who reports to me and really takes care of the functioning of our office. And then you've been introduced to the two deputy city managers. Starting on the left, the deputy city manager for external services is Jason Rogers, and he oversees community development, economic development, public works, parks, recreation, and golf, and then also is involved in a number of other activities, such as transportation advocacy and that type of thing. The deputy city manager on the right side for internal services, you were introduced to her, that's Kathy Blakeman. She oversees the finance department, information technology department. Can't read that.
It's human resources, Roger.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Human resources. This is a real eye chart. So she has 3 departments and then a number of divisions within the city manager's office, including city clerk, municipal court staff, and we have management analysts that assist both deputies. And then the other major part of the organization is the police department. So the chief of police reports to me, and he has 5 divisions within that organization as well. In terms of staff number and resources, the police department is the largest department and is about 1/3 of the organization in terms of full-time employees. And then the external departments are quite large. The internal departments are a little smaller, but it's sort of broken out 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 in terms of responsibility and oversight. Next slide, please. Oh, questions. All right.
All right. Do any of the candidates have any questions for Mr. Tinklenberg? Again, you can use that raise hand function in Zoom if you have any. I'm not seeing. Oh, we have Jacob with a question. Jacob, you should be allowed to unmute yourself and ask your question. Jacob, I see your mic's been unmuted, but we're not hearing you. Well, we'll let Jacob figure out his microphone issue, and then we'll come back to you, Jacob. Any other questions for Mr. Tinklenberg? I'm not seeing any, so if that's all right with you, I'll go ahead and move on.
That's fine. I'm going to blank out my screen so I can finish my dinner, but I'll stay with you and be available for questions.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So I take it some of you want to be a candidate. So I am now going to provide you some of the rules of the road for running for office. So first things first, starting this past Tuesday, yesterday at 8 a.m., petition packets were available for pickup in my office. Right now, the Civic Center is open from on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. However, if you're a candidate and you need to come in and grab a petition, submit any paperwork or ask me any questions, just let the guest relations staff at the front doors know, and they'll bring you over here to my office and come get me to meet you in the lobby if necessary. Um, there's a couple constitutional deadlines that we have to let you guys hit, so we can't completely lock you guys out while we're kind of in this reopening stage with COVID. Um, so the nomination petitions, I'll go over the content here briefly. Every person that comes into my office, I always make sure that we go over the petition packet with you individually and make sure if you have any questions, we get those answered for you before you head out the door and start circulating your petition. And then after your petition is turned in, Jordan, my deputy city clerk, myself, and then Yadi, our administrative assistant, and Tiffany, our business licensing coordinator, we all trade petitions back and forth and double check each other's work whenever we're verifying signatures, because we want to make sure every single voter that signs a petition and every single candidate has all the necessary signatures that they need, and just cross check each other's work to make sure that we're looking at the signatures right. So first things first, each petition you'll pick up from my office will look like this. This is an at-large petition, but if you're running for Ward 1, it'll say Ward 1 on the front. If you're running for Ward 3, it'll say Ward 3 on the front. The only thing that's going to be different in each petition packet is going to be the map. So if you're running at large, you get a map of the whole city. If you're running for Ward 1, you get a map of Ward 1. And then the color of each petition. That way, whenever you turn them in, the color that the petition packet that's on our desk whenever we're checking signatures tells us which ward, or if we're looking at large for signature verification. So to open one up, like I said, whenever you come in, we'll go through it with you. But there's going to be all your basically important documents within a petition packet. We try and set you guys up for success from the get-go. But if you ever have any questions, again, just let us know. So the first document you're going to get, I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see these with the camera, but you're going to get an interoffice memo, basically thanking you for running for office and laying out each of the documents that's in the petition packet. And then our contact information will be at the bottom of the memo. So if you ever have any questions, you've got Jordan and I's desk phone, so you can harass us all you want. Then we're going to have our 2021 candidate information sheet, basically laying out the requirements for running for office, the compensation package as a mayor or council member, and then how to start running for office. So there's going to be a couple like statutory citations and stuff to make sure that you know whether or not you're qualified to run for office based on that information. One of the more important documents is going to be our 2021 election calendar. This is going to lay out every single date that you need to know about from August 3rd, yesterday, all the way through December 9th. So the most important ones are going to be your petition deadlines here in the short term. So you can start picking up petitions as of yesterday. Your nomination petitions are due to me no later than 5 p.m. on August 23rd. We're going to have our ballot lot draw right now with the state of things. We're not sure if we're going to invite everybody into the chambers or if we're going to do some sort of hybrid broadcasting for that. But the ballot order for Commerce City isn't determined by alphabetical names. It's not determined by who turns in their petition first. It's determined by random luck of the draw. We throw all the names into the city's first ballot box from the very founding of the city. And then we have a border commission come in to the chambers, televise it, and draw the names out at random. And that determines our ballot order for the 2021 election. For your campaign finance filing reports, if you are running with the committee, your first deadline is going to be October 12th. Your second deadline is going to be October 29th. And then your post-election report is going to be due on December 2nd. There's going to be more dates and deadlines in here, but those are kind of the important ones to let you know ahead of time. And again, the calendar is included in your petition packet. New this year, if you ran last or in 2019 or previously, one thing that Jordan and I are pretty proud of that we worked on this year is our 2021 election plan and candidate guide. This will tell members of the public, city staff, candidates, and city council how Jordan and I are conducting this election, and also providing every prospective candidate with information on how to run for office, some general guidelines and information you're going to need as you start from August all the way through the election season. And then again, as I mentioned, you're going to have a ward map. This is an at-large packet, so you get a map of the entire city. If this was a Ward 1 packet, you'd get a map of just Ward 1. But this is going to tell you the area of residents, registered voters that will be eligible to sign your nomination petition. So if you live in Ward 1, you don't want to get signatures from somebody that lives in Ward 2 or Ward 3, because those won't be eligible signatures and those won't contribute to your 25 signature minimum to qualify for the ballot. For those of you that haven't filed your candidate affidavit yet, we include a copy of the candidate affidavit along with instructions on how to fill it out. 99% of the forms in this packet, except for the nomination petitions, will be available online at c3gov.com. So if you have bad handwriting or just prefer to fill them out via PDF, all the fillable PDF forms are online on our elections page. If you're running as a candidate with a committee, we have a committee registration form in here again. It's going to be a fillable PDF online if you prefer to fill it out that way. I mentioned before your reports of contributions and expenditures that are due on October 12th, 29th, and December 2nd. We include 3 printed copies with the due dates up at the top. So we have a report for your October 12th in a paper copy, a report for your October 29th in a paper copy, and a report for December 2nd in a paper copy. Again, these forms are fillable online via PDF at our elections page, and Jordan and I will be sending out regular reminders throughout the election cycle of, hey, next week your reports are due, please get them in. So we try to make it as easy and stress-free as possible for you guys and providing you with reminders throughout the election season. Now, let's say you're running as what's called a standalone candidate, and we'll get into that later in the presentation, but we have a statement of personal expenditures. So if you're not running with a committee, meaning you're not taking contributions, you're only going to spend your own money, you're going to file on those due dates, but you're going to file a different form basically saying, I spent my own money to buy campaign signs or door knockers, and I didn't take any contributions. If you plan on not spending any money and not receiving any money, then we have a statement of non-receipt of funds and non-expenditure of funds. Basically, it's a $0 report. And again, that would be due on October 12th, 29th, and December 2nd, if that's how you're running your campaign. Lastly, we have an affirmation statement of an LLC. We'll get into LLC contributions later in the presentation, but we also include a form here for you as well. Again, all the forms I mentioned, fillable online via PDF if that's easier for you. And if you ever need copies, you can print them off yourself or just contact me and Jordan. We'll print you off some copies. And then lastly, we have our nomination petitions. So you can see these are pink this year. So this tells Jordan and I that each at-large petition that we get in is going to have a pink backing. Ward 1 is yellow, and I think Ward 3 is green, if I remember right. And that's just the only differences, the maps and then the color of the petitions between the different packets. It's a lot of information. On the first page of your nomination petition is going to be instructions and some deadlines for circulating your petition. The second page is going to be instructions on how to fill it out. The most important thing here, and I want to stress to everybody, do not at all separate this nomination petition. There's 2 staples up here. Don't separate it. Don't deface it. Don't make any other markings on it other than the space provided to fill in information or to gather your signatures. Per statute, if this petition is separated in any way or defaced in any way, I have to reject the entire petition, which means 30 lines of signatures get tossed out if it's defaced. So please, please, please do not make me throw these out if you separate them. Then we have our actual petition sections. So up at the top, you're going to fill in your name as a candidate, your address, and then which office you're running for, Ward 1, 3, or at large this year. You can see on the petition section, we have 11 lines on the front and then a remaining 19 lines on the back. So each petition section has 30 total lines of signatures. We include 2 nomination petition packets, or 2 nomination petitions in your packet, so a total of 60 signatures. You're required to hit 25 signatures, valid signatures, to qualify for the November ballot. Hopefully within the 60 lines that we provide you, you can hit 25. If for some reason you turn in both nomination petitions with 60 lines and you don't hit your 25, let us know so we can print you off a third, and make sure that as long as it's before the deadline, obviously. At the back of the petition is going to be an affidavit of circulator. Only one registered voter in Commerce City for the ward in which you're running can circulate a petition. So if you're circulating your own petition, you can't get 10 signatures. Hand this petition off to a neighbor, a friend, a partner, or a family member and have them go collect the remaining. Whoever is circulating this petition has to be the only one circulating this petition. You'll fill out the affidavit of circulator, or if you're having somebody else fill out your second petition, have them fill out their affidavit of circulator, and it has to be notarized. Again, one person per circulator. If you have 2 names on here, it's insufficient. I have to toss out all 30 lines. Then on the back will be your acceptance of nomination. This is basically saying, I believe I have 25 signatures of people that want to nominate me for council member at large, council member Ward 1, or council member Ward 3. So you will fill this out and get it notarized again. The most important thing, or one of the most important things on here, is this section that asks you for your printed name. How you print this name is how I'm going to send it to Adams County to be printed on the ballot. So if you are Joseph and you go by Joe, you need to include Joe last name. So again, how you want your name on the ballot goes on that line that I just showed you. This also needs to be notarized as well. I can't accept it. If you turn this in at 5 p.m. on August 23rd and it's not notarized, you missed the deadline, and that's unfortunate. But Jordan and I are notaries. We cannot notarize any election form. There's a couple that require notarization. We cannot notarize those for you. You'll want to go to probably your bank, a library, or look it up online. But Jordan and I or city staff cannot notarize election forms for candidates for office for our city. So that's your nomination petition. We went over the deadlines and some signature verification. So where to find information. So your resources are going to be the Fair Campaign Practices Act and state statute, which inform you of what's a valid contribution, what's not a valid contribution, what's a valid expenditure, not a valid expenditure, your deadlines, committee information. We also have Title I, Article 45 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, and that is basically the election code that the city abides by. And then the Colorado Secretary of State's office has some really good resources on campaign finance and elections. So who files with the city clerk in my office? Local candidates, so basically everybody running for municipal office in Commerce City. And then local committees. So local committees are either the candidate committees that you register for that new committee registration, or it's a political committee that only contributes to candidates or issues that take place in Commerce City, an issue committee that only donates to ballot issues advocacy in Commerce City. So we get some questions throughout the year if, this Colorado wide organization that contributes to both Commerce City and Denver and Aurora candidates, if they need to file in the clerk's office. No, they'll most likely file with the state, and if they contribute to you, we'll look them up in the state system. They only need to register with us if they only contribute to Commerce City candidates only. So what constitutes a candidate? You publicly announce that you have an intent to run for office. and you accept a contribution or make an expenditure in support of your election to office. Once you do that, you need to file that candidate affidavit in my office within 10 days. Jumped ahead of myself here. Now we'll get into a standalone candidate here in just a second, but that's for most candidates that you run for office and you're going to raise money and you're going to expend funds from a committee. So a candidate committee accepts contributions and makes expenditures under the authority of the candidate. And to register, you file a committee registration form, ideally before you make any expenditures or receive any contributions. The committee name should include the name of the candidate, right? So Dylan Gibson for at-large committee or election campaign. The physical address and email should be included. That way people can contact you and know where this committee's HQ is, right? And then we also need the name of the bank where the committee bank account is at or will be at if you haven't quite formed it yet. Then each committee will have what's called a registered agent. All committees have to have one. It can be you. You can be your own registered agent for your committee or can be somebody else. They are the person responsible for keeping track of all of your contributions and expenditures and filing the reports on the deadlines that we went over a little bit ago. That agent doesn't have to stick with you for your whole election. They can resign. That resignation needs to be filed in our office, and then you need to file an amended committee registration. So some of the prohibited contributions that your candidate committee or standalone candidate cannot receive are from corporations, foreign citizens, corporations or government, lobbyists, another candidate committee. You can't trade money back and forth. You can't receive anonymous contributions of $20 or more. Somebody can hand you a 10 and you don't need to what's called itemize that or list that out individually on your report of contribution expenditure. But if they give you a $20 bill or more, or write you a check for $20 or more, that needs to be itemized. So you need to lay out the date it was received, how much, and by who. You can't receive any contributions in physical money or quarters, dimes, or nickels in total of $100 or more. You can't take loans from other individuals or entities. You can personally loan from your personal bank account to your committee bank account. And then that's a personal loan, but the interest rate is 0 for that. And then again, we talked about that LLC affirmation statement earlier, but LLCs can contribute so long as none of the members are a corporation or a labor organization, a natural person who isn't a U.S. citizen or a foreign government, a professional or a volunteer lobbyist, or anybody that the IRS treats as a corporation. That affirmation statement has to be kept for 1 year by you, and you also have to file it with me, and we'll keep it as well. But you are required to keep that affirmation statement as well. It's important to note that any contributions over $100 or more, whenever you itemize that out for that person, you also have to list their occupation and their employer on the form. So a standalone candidate that we talked about earlier is somebody that doesn't have a candidate committee because they're not accepting contributions and they plan on spending their own money or not spending any money at all, like we went over earlier. All expenditures must be reported and still have to itemize each expenditure over $20. And then you can file, again, that $0 report if no expenditures were made. And then obviously no contributions will be received because you don't have a committee. So just to go over what a contribution is, that's anything of value directly or indirectly given to a candidate or your candidate committee. And that includes check, cash, coin, or credit card. I think the Secretary of State has made a ruling recently on like Venmo or Cash App or PayPal transactions, but I'd have to go back and verify that. Again, when you sign that candidate affidavit, you're the ones responsible for knowing the Fair Campaign Practices Act, but we generally try and stay in the know. And if you ever have any questions of, is this form of contribution allowed, just reach out to Jordan and I, and we'll look that up and make sure that before you report it or you receive it, it's valid or allowed or not. So again, for your reporting, you need to report any contributions of $20 or more, including in-kind contributions. So If somebody, shoots a video for you, they're a professional videographer and they shoot a campaign video for you, but they're not charging you any money, that's an in-kind donation, and you still need to list out on your report of contributions and expenditure the fair market value of that contribution that they're making to your campaign. It's not, a check, it's not, a dollar bill, but that's an in-kind contribution. For contributions for $100 or more, again, you also have to include the occupation and the employer of that contributor. And then non-monetary goods of donation, equipment, supplies, and services also constitute a contribution, like we mentioned, right? Videographer, you have a friend that owns a restaurant, they let you rent out a room that they would normally charge for. That's an in-kind contribution that still has to be listed out on your report. You can't receive contributions, again, in physical cash or, coin, quarters, and nickels and dimes exceeding $100 for each contribution. Anonymous contributions of $20 or more are prohibited. If it's $20 or more, you have to itemize that out. You can't have somebody making a contribution expecting to be reimbursed. That's essentially a loan, right? Which are prohibited. And you can't, again, transfer money from one candidate committee to another. Expenditures now, on the flip side of that, the money that you're spending in support of your candidacy is any money that you as a candidate or as a standalone candidate or your committee spends. And that expenditure should be reported when it's made, obligated, or the contract is established. For reporting, again, it's a lot of the same rules, right? All expenditures of $20 more must be itemized. Reimbursements by the campaign to candidates, staff, and volunteers have to be reported, and reimbursements of $28 or more have to be itemized out on the report. The reimbursement detail should include what the expenditure is for. So let's say you make a purchase as a candidate out of your personal bank account for water for your volunteers as they're, knocking on doors or whatever it may be. The reporting, the disclosure on your report would include the amount reimbursed. So if it's, $19 or, $20.37 because of tax, you include the amount that you're reimbursing back to yourself for spending the funds, and then the purpose is, water for volunteers or whatever it may be. If you're doing mileage reimbursement, you have to do it at the IRS rate. So you'll need to look that up for whatever Colorado, the Denver Metro IRS mileage rate is. Again, prohibitions, can't make expenditures $100 or more and specifically physical cash or coin. So we went over the reporting periods earlier, but your first report is due 21 days before the election, October 19th. You've got your second report due Friday before the election, so October 29th. And then your third report due 30 days after the election, December 2nd. If you, at the end of the election cycle, have money left over in your committees that you don't terminate out, we'll get into that here in a little bit. And actually, the next slide, I think. You have to report annually every year that that committee has a balance on the first day of the election month. So if you run for office in 2021 and you have funds left over and on November 1st of 2022, you need to report your committee's activity for that previous year to my office. And you're allowed to do that up to 9 years, and then you have to terminate it out. So yeah, terminating. You will remain a candidate in Colorado as long as your committee is open. To not have an open committee, you file what's called a termination report, which means you are reporting a zero balance, which means you can't have any outstanding debt. You can't have any funds in the committee. You have to report zero. After 9 years of having a committee open but not running for office, you have to terminate it. To terminate out your report, you can contribute unexpended contributions to a political party, another candidate committee established by the same candidate. So if you are unsuccessful this year in 2021 for Commerce City and you want to run for a county commissioner or state rep, and you establish a new committee, committee to elect Dylan Gibson to Colorado District House 9, you could transfer your remaining balance from your city account to your now state election committee account. And you can donate to a recognizable charitable nonprofit, or you can return the money to contributors. If you are successful and you get elected, you can use some of your campaign funds to purchase voter education materials or for supplies you need while you're in office. Reports, they're retained 1 year from the date of filing for unsuccessful candidates. For elected candidates, your reports are retained for 1 year after you leave office. All the reports that we have are always going to be available for public inspection. You just need to contact Jordan or I. We will respond no later than the next business day after you file that request to see campaign reports. And then if the Colorado Secretary of State, for some reason, wants copies of those reports, we will transmit that to them as well. So in terms of running for office, campaign finance, that covers a lot. We're going to talk about signs here real quick, and then we'll get to the Q&A portion. So campaign signs, one of the more interesting aspects of running for office that we see from a employee side or election administration side for municipal elections. So no, you don't need a permit to put out campaign signs, and there's no limit on the size or number for how many signs you can put out. But there are some restrictions. So you have to get permission from the property owner before posting on private property. You can't place signs on traffic control devices, so utility or telephone poles. You can't place them on fences or other structures. You can't place them on public property, and you can't place them in right-of-ways. Signs cannot obstruct traffic vision. Signs that are within right-of-ways owned by the city will be removed by neighborhood service inspectors if they're in violation of the sign code. Signs will be held all the way up until the day after the election, and neighborhood services will make routine attempts to contact you as a candidate saying, hey, you left your signs out in the right of way. We picked them up. They're here in the office. If you want to schedule a time to come by and pick them up. Day after the election, if you haven't picked up your signs, neighborhood services is probably going to pitch them. For signs left in the right of way maintained by CDOT, they're a little less nice, and they will probably pick up your signs, not attempt to contact you, and throw them away immediately. So don't place them in the right of way. I think that's it. So yeah, questions and answers. We're going to go ahead and stop the presentation. If you guys have any resources, the elections page is going to point you to probably 99% of the resources that you need. If you want more information on city council, there's a website for that. If you have questions on the capital improvement program, want to see the city maps, the city budget, or the taxes, the links are all here. Again, elections page is going to get you where you need to go. Jordan and I can direct you if you have any questions as you're running, but that's the end of the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then whatever questions you all have for us, we're here to answer until you're sick of listening to us.
One item quickly, just note that neighborhood services, the name has now been changed to code enforcement.
Code enforcement. Thank you, Roger. I appreciate that.
There.
All right. So again, you just need to use that raise hand function in Zoom, and we'll answer any questions that you guys can throw our way. I think we did such a good job that nobody has any questions.
And Dylan, you mentioned this will be posted on our website later this week, correct?
Correct. So we're recording right now. So once we're done here, we'll download the recording. We'll throw it up on the c3gov.com/elections page, and then you can watch it anytime. Anybody in the public can watch this at any time. And then, if you have any other questions that we didn't cover here, please contact Jordan and I, and we'll help you the best that we can. I'm not seeing any raised hands. So at this point, oh, Lucy's got one. Lucy, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Oh, there, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Lucy.
Okay, thank you so much, Dylan. Yes, you did such a wonderful job. It's so very well organized. So I really want to thank you for all the work that you guys have done to get this together. I do have one question for the manager, or the in the beginning when they were showing us the graph, he spoke about what are minor and major interruptions. Can you share an example of what that is?
Well, minor disruption would be if, for example, I'll just make something up as an illustration. If a state regulation changes and that requires us to modify our approach, then often that will cause a minor disruption. But if a state regulation changes and we can no longer proceed in the way that we were going to, and therefore, it makes it impossible for that project to continue, or nearly impossible, that would be a major disruption. And there are a few times where it's just simply impossible to proceed because of an event like that. And at that point, we would show it as that activity as being terminated. So hope that helps a little bit, but happy to clarify further if you want me to.
Yes, thank you. I thought like maybe like the pandemic or something like that. So yes, that's a clear example. Again, thank you, Dylan, and thanks to all of you for all your work and preparation. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. All right. Any other questions that anybody can think of? All right. I'm not seeing any others. So again just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your evening tonight to come learn a little bit more about the city, how to run for office, campaign finance, campaign signs, anything, try and provide a general overview for you all to prepare you as you go out and start circulating your petitions, getting questions and comments from the public, and hopefully preparing you for the next couple months of this very fun and engaging and exciting season for municipal government. So with that, Mr. Tinklenberg, do you have any parting thoughts you'd like to give anybody before we call it here?
No parting thoughts other than thank you to all of you who are candidates or considering it, because it is a significant responsibility, and running for office, providing that choice to the voters is a bedrock of democracy. And so it's at this local level that democracy functions, I think, best. And so thank you for doing that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tinklenberg. All right. Well, I hope you all have a great evening. Good luck as you circulate your petitions. Let Jordan and I know if you have any questions, and have a great night. Goodbye.